Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Only Land Fan Show. My name is Kendall Lejeune, and our guest today is Alicia Jarrett. Alicia is a passionate and driven global real estate investor based out of Australia, conducting deals in the United States. She co-owns multiple businesses, including Global Citizens Holdings, Inc., Landscouts and Supercharged Offers. Focused on leadership in business and investing in land, her business ventures provide efficient real estate marketing and world-class data solutions, which assists other real estate investors to digitally transform their business for increased results. Alicia, thanks so much for joining us. How are you today?
Kendall, I'm so happy to be here. You're one of my favorites, you know that. So I was always willing to come and help you out and talk to people because that's what I love doing.
Yes, I tell you, the feeling is absolutely mutual. I am a huge contributing member to the AJ fan club, and so we're so excited to have you back. You are back by popular demand. You joined us on our regular series of the podcast, and we had such a great response that you and I got together and said, hey, let's just do a masterclass.
Yeah.
And you came up with a brilliant 3-part masterclass. So I'm so excited that we're going to be able to spend some time with you today.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us.
Me too. And I love the fact that we came up with this 3-part series because what I think we want to start talking about as well, and Diane, thank you for your introduction earlier, is that everybody's at different stages of their real estate journey, right? That sometimes I think we put podcasts out there and things for people that are super experienced or just starting out. So if we can chunk it down to a few key topics, I think that's going to help a lot more people to meet them where they're at, Kendall. So really excited to jump into this with you.
Absolutely. You hit the nail right on the head. There are so many different people that are in different phases of their real estate journeys. And it's exciting to see brand new people starting up in the profession and also exciting to see seasoned investors. And when those two worlds come together, there's some really cool things that happen. So let's jump right in. Today, we are talking about the real estate investment journey from startup to success and the real expectations to plan for. Emphasis on real, because there's so many different things out there, right?
Oh, yeah, there sure is. And I even saw the other day, now I'm not going to name any names here, but I got an email from an educator that was like, in the next 30 days, you're going to be holding your first check for $20,000. And I was like, not so much. Yes, that can happen. We do see the unicorn deals out there, don't get me wrong. But what I'm really big on, and this is what I love about you as well, Kendall, we're big at giving people the reality check in this biz. It's not easy. There are different hurdles that people have to jump over and work through. But that's when it comes to the stuff that you're providing and the things that I do. Let's help people over that. And definitely keeping it real.
Absolutely. I love that. And like you said, there definitely are unicorn deals out there. I know that you have had them, I have had them, but it's really important to stay grounded in expectations because I see so many students that come into the program that are like, okay, I'm going to be a millionaire in the next 30 days. This exact thing. So digging into this, I think that's a great place to start is expectations. And so can you talk a little bit about what are some of the expectations that you see a lot of your clients have when they first start the business, and how might that sort of compare and contrast with reality?
Yeah. If I can actually share my screen and take you through a quick slide.
Absolutely.
I just want to put screen sharing on because sometimes I think it's good to visualize this, right? And get a bit of a sense of where your starting point is versus where your finishing point is. So this is something that I talk about pretty regularly for folks listening. We call it the real estate investor journey. Now, this really doesn't matter if it's vacant land or single family homes, but let's use vacant land today because obviously we're on the Only Land Fans group. Here's the reality, folks. Typically, most real estate investors will start here at month 1. So if you are new to real estate investing, you need to get your business arranged, get your bank account set up, understand some simple education on what it is that you want to do, what strategy, what location you want to do and investing in, get all those nuts and bolts really sorted, and then start marketing because you cannot do this business without marketing for deals. Okay. But here's what happens. We call this the danger zone. And the reason it's the danger zone is in this first 6 months, this is where 95% of people simply give up. Now, let's talk about the reasons why people give up, Kendall. As you said, really difficult. You got to stay grounded. You are going to have obstacles. You're going to be investing a fair amount of money to get started in this business. You're going to have deals that go through. You're going to have deals that don't go through. You're going to have probates that you won't know what to do with. You're going to have sellers that back out of the deal. You're going to have all this stuff happen. But let's give the reality check here. All this stuff is normal and it can all be overcome. Okay, you move on, you move to the next deal. But these first 6 months are really tough. They're tough because it's got a lot of firsts in there. So all those things I just mentioned, a lot of people are going to experience that in the first 6 months for the first time. The other thing that's important in here is what we call the lag. So the lag is really that you need to be marketing throughout these 6 months consistently. This is not come in month 1 and do a little bit of marketing and then stop again and do some more in month 4 and then stop again. Like that is not going to see you succeed in this business because number one, you're then going to feel like you're on a roller coaster and your business is never going to get past go. You're going to get some stuff and then you stop and then you start again. So those first 6 months, it's all about consistency and you really need to keep things consistent. What we then find, Kendall, is down here at month 7, month 8, month 9, month 10, that's when we're starting to close deals and starting to see that return on investment. However, here's the reality check. Month 7, you're probably closing a deal and you likely started that conversation with the seller maybe back here in month 2. And so the reality that I want to put in front of people is there is a good 4 to 6 months to get a return on investment in the vacant land space. Now, can you do deals much quicker than that? Yes, you can. But let's talk about the law of averages here, right? We want to make sure that when we're helping people set up their businesses, and you're the same when you do coaching, that we're not just being short-sighted. We're really thinking about what is 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 24 months and beyond? What does that look like for your business? And where we really want to get people to, Kendall, is what we call the path. So for those listening, expect that in that first 12 months, you will close deals, but you're going to need that first 6 months to really get your pipeline humming. By the way, when we get into the blue zone, this doesn't mean that you stop marketing. This now means that you're marketing as well as closing deals. So in this first year, we want to get you to that stage that maybe you round out the year in what we call the top 10% of income earners across America. So 10% of income earners, believe it or not, it's only about 173,000 to put you in the top 10% in this country. Top 5% is 340,000 a year. Top 1% is just over 800K a year. And the top 1 of 1% income earners in this country is just over 3 million. So we've got customers all along this spectrum, but the one thing that stands out from everyone is this consistency. I hope that makes sense, guys, for anyone listening, because the expectation is, and we learned this too when we started, it's going to take a little bit of time to get stuff to the stage that you're really starting to get humming, right?
Absolutely. And I love this graphic because it so beautifully illustrates exactly what that REI journey looks like. And one of the things that I want to piggyback on that you said earlier is that word expectation, right? And I think that expectations sometimes can be a double-edged sword. And what I mean by that is if you were doing a simple land flip business, you're not doing a ton of creative strategy, all you're doing is buying low and selling high. That's a pretty simple model.
Yep.
Compared to how complex other real estate vehicles might be. So it's a pretty simple thing, but simple does not mean easy, right? And so I think a lot of people, myself included, when I first got started in real estate, I looked at simple models like flipping houses. If you ever talk to a house flipper, you know that may be a simple business model, but that is definitely not an easy business model.
Oh, it is not. And I can talk to that with confidence because we went from houses to land. So I can tell you the difference.
Exactly. Yes. Nothing easy about it. Just making that distinction between simple and easy. And then also just making sure that you are embracing the challenge, right? Like that's one thing that I see a lot of students struggle with is that they will get started and they start marketing and they start getting some momentum with marketing because people are calling back, they're negotiating, they're starting to feel like they're doing the thing, and then sellers ghost or they can't get people back on the phone. And then that momentum starts slowing down and so does their excitement and enthusiasm. And what I would like to do is just encourage anyone who's gone through that, who may be going through that right now, is just to, number one, embrace it. it's part of every single person's journey. I deal with that. AJ, I know that you deal with that. I have tons of
Yep.
students. Some of the guests that I interview here are making millions of dollars a year in land, and they're going through that. So don't feel like that's something that's brand new to just you. And then the other component is you have to keep in perspective the wins that you actually are having. So I think that when people look at, I didn't get a contract yet, or I haven't closed a deal yet, like your graphic just illustrated, that could be 6 months of struggle before you start getting something consistent. And so if you're only looking at the things that are not working out, you'll easily quit in that first
Yeah.
6 months.
Yeah, if I can add in there, Kendall, I've got this. I'm currently in Phoenix, Arizona at the moment, but when I'm home in Australia, I've got this big post-it note on my whiteboard, and it says, "Where focus goes, energy flows." And
Yes.
taking into that, if we're always focused on what's not working and the hard stuff, then that's the lens that we do business through, right? Whereas if we pause every day and go, look, I've just marketed to 20,000 people and I've got leads here to work with. Amazing. Like
Yes.
focus on the good stuff, folks. And even I'll add to what you said, Kendall, because I really love what you were talking about with when things get hard. The gold is in the hard stuff, folks. I'll say that again. The gold is in the hard stuff. So if you are just looking at a simple model of buy low, sell high, even in that, you're going to have hard stuff. So some of the deals that might come through will be a probate that you've got no idea what to do with. Maybe there's a title that needs clearing up. Maybe there's liens that you've got to negotiate with the county on behalf of your seller. When you roll up your sleeves and get in and do that stuff, you will be more successful. Because if you're willing to do the stuff that other people aren't, you will create raving fans in your land biz.
Yes, 1,000%. And I love that you dove into that and said, expect for there to be challenges, even in the simple business models.
Yep.
Because if you don't expect challenges, you'll think that they're roadblocks and that you shouldn't be doing it. Like if you expect everything to just be super smooth and easy, like you are going to have
What's that old saying? If it was easy, everyone would do it.
everyone
That's not the
doing it.
case.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why there's such a huge drop-off rate in real estate investing. That 95%, and I actually think it's higher than that. 95, it's actually more like 97% of people give up too soon because they get one roadblock and then they're like, this is too hard.
Too hard.
First of all, I will say that's a little bit of natural selection for me, because if you're not willing to get in and do stuff, then maybe this business isn't for you. So that takes people that are probably not going to do the right thing by our property owners out of the game. But second is use those challenges and those hard things as a really good learning opportunity. Now, the stuff that you and I know now, Kendall, that we've never used to know about vacant land, all because we just do what needs to be done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I like the saying, it doesn't get easier, you just get better.
Yes.
Right? The more the things that you learn to do through the challenges makes the things that come after it more achievable for you specifically. And you also said something that just reminded me of a point. I get this question all the time. Isn't land becoming too saturated? Isn't there too much competition? Isn't there just too many people flooding the market? And my answer to that is, number one, there are more people that are trying to do land.
Yep.
But for all of the reasons that we just talked about, all of those people are sending one mailer and then they're out. They're done. They're like, it's not working. So even though there are more people in the space, there's not more competition. Right?
Yeah, I don't think it's saturated. And the other point I'll make is, because I get that question a lot as well, because obviously we do marketing for people and they're like, is it the wrong time to get in? Is it this? Is it that? And I said, first of all, stop questioning it and just get in there and do, because you never know until you're in. And what is that? One of my team members said this to me today. Will Smith has got a quote before he jumped out of a plane skydiving, and he said, the hardest moment is before you jump. And I was like, yes, I love that. But the other question that I often put back to people when they say, is land really saturated? I'm like, compared to what? Because land is the most undersaturated asset class. When you look at single family homes, multifamily, self-storage, that has got saturation, especially in certain markets. Is land at that point yet? No, I don't think so. There's millions of pieces of land out there and lots to be done.
Absolutely. Completely, wholeheartedly agree. One of the tactical things I like to give people that ask me that question about just real estate investors in general, is the market too saturated? I like to say, if you're driving around town and you see a bandit sign, call it and see what that reaction is like. What is that interaction? Are
Love
they
it.
answer the phone? Do they call you back? Chances are they won't. And that will give you so much more confidence that like, okay, yes, I might see 100 bandit signs, but maybe one will call me back. So it's not as
Correct.
competitive as you think it is, right?
Yeah, completely agree, Kendall. Love it.
So let's talk a little bit about now. We've talked a little bit about the importance of starting up a pipeline. And what I do want to dig into is I had Logan Fulmer on the show, and he talked about the distinction between being a deal shop and being a business, right?
Mm.
These are two completely different things. And I really love that term deal shop. I think a lot of people get into this flow of I do one or two land deals and now I have a business. And unless you're being intentional about setting it up and operating it as a business, meaning you have systems, you have consistency, then it's not really a business. It's more of a deal shop. It's more of a hobby. You're just looking to get these transactional deals done. So,
I love that distinction, by the way. That's really
yeah,
cool.
brilliant. When he said it, I said, okay, I completely get it. I completely get it. So, can you talk a little bit about what are some of the challenges or mistakes that people often make in actually starting a land business?
Yep. Yep. I would say I've got quite a few things I can talk to there, but the number one thing I would say is not allowing themselves a runway. So a lot of people will spend a fortune on education and then they've got no money left for marketing. You can then this is the whole premise that behind what started a lot of vacant land investors, right? Is the whole concept of doing a deal with no money down. So yes, you can do a deal with no money down. You can get it under contract here and sell it here. That's fine. That's not the problem. The problem is in order to find the deal and get your business started, you need a certain amount of cash to get started, right? And that's all about setting up your business and setting up your marketing and getting involved in the right systems and processes. So some of the mistakes I see people make is they've spent like $40,000 on their education and they've got $2,000 for marketing. And then they expect that 2,000 is going to turn into 200,000. And I'm like, the numbers don't work that way. So
Yeah.
what I really implore people to do is maybe, and I'm not gonna say that education is bad here. It is not. We did some education, and I know that you do amazing stuff with what you provide, Kendall. Education is great, folks, but really ask yourselves, how much education do you need before you actually start doing and implementing? Because trust me, the biggest learning that you're going to get is when people start calling you for deals. Just getting knowledge about something is just that. It's just knowledge. So really make sure that you're allocating a certain budget for your education, but then equal, if not more than, so that you've got 6 months of runway and then some. Because what you want to plan for is maybe you've got 3,000 or 4,000 a month that you can put towards marketing. Great. If you want a business that's going to give you $20,000 or $50,000 a month, like a $20,000 a month business, not a deal shop, business needs to have a budget of about somewhere between $3,000 to $5,000 for marketing per month, if that's what you want to get consistently. The way that marketing works, and I want people to hear this, marketing is not a cost, it's an investment. You should put $1 in and eventually get a certain amount of dollars back. Okay, that's what you need to look like. And the difference between a deal shop and a business is you need to measure that consistently. How much money are you spending per month? When a deal comes in, what's your ROI on that deal? When that deal comes in, how much of a percentage do you need to put back into marketing versus profit that you can take out? And how do you really treat it as a business? So I guess coming back to your question, Kendall, number one is make sure that you've got a decent budget, folks, in order to do deals. And I'm not just talking marketing, getting yourself set up with a good CRM. Don't spend money on VAs up front. And here's my thing with this. You do not need a VA to start a land business. What you need is time to look at your deals, nurture your leads, run your numbers, make offers, make second offers, etc. What that is a process. So when it comes to your education, folks, I'd really encourage you to think about it in terms of tactical things. Yes, you're going to get all this knowledge, but what does that look like from a typical month-to-month business flow? For example, month one, are you sending out marketing in week one, anticipating responses by week 2 or 3, and then in week 4, you're running your final numbers and getting your offers out and re-nurturing those leads? Now, I'm not saying that don't take that as gospel, people, but it's really making sure that you're systematized in things and you've got the right systems and processes in place to help you with that. Then when you're at the stage that you're looking for help, and maybe it's a virtual assistant to help you out with intake or answering calls or running comps, then make sure you're plugging them in to your right processes. I think I see so many people in this business, Kendall, that just go and get resources to plug a problem, but then what they end up with is another people problem.
Yes,
So
you have to manage and train that virtual assistant, right?
yep.
And if you don't know exactly how they fit in or what they're doing, then you're basically just wasting money and wasting energy because they're going to be asking you questions that you don't really know how to answer. And so if you don't build out your systems, at least have a skeleton idea of what it needs to look like, then you're not
100%.
really going to know where to put those resources or those people that you brought into your business.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say on that as well then is, this is why I say don't get a VA up front. The best thing you can do in your business is learn everything first yourself. Get in and talk to sellers, talk to buyers, run your comps, make mistakes, learn from them. Do all of that stuff first so that you can get clear on what good looks like. Then when you know what good looks like, then plug and play with people, right? So just to sum up everything I've said, because I get super passionate about this, Kendall. Number one, have a budget for your marketing. Number two, look at your processes and systems to support you, and you don't need to spend a lot on that. We started our business with Google Sheets way back in the day. Number three, make sure that you at least can get in and understand what good looks like for your business before you go and hire people.
Hey land fans, looking for your tribe of serious land investors? Join thousands of your fellow land lovers in the Only Land Fans Facebook group. We're talking real deals, expert strategies, and game-changing connections you won't find anywhere else. This isn't just another real estate group, this is the community where land investors come to level up. Join us at onlylandfansgroup.com and join the conversation today. That's onlylandfansgroup.com. See you there.
I love that so much because I think I say that in some form or fashion every single week on some kind of platform, in some kind of coaching call situation. It's this, I say the same thing. And I just cannot agree with you more in that you don't need a ton of fancy things to get going, right? Like the first year of my business, I ran on Google Sheets, right? And there's still some things that I just like, so I keep them.
We turned our Google Sheet into its own CRM. We had one sheet that had all of our deals in it, and each tab was a different stage of a pipeline. And we just moved deals from one to the next, and we tagged our team on tasks, and that was it. And you know what? It worked. It was fine.
Yes. I love that. And so one of the other things that I wanted to point out here is that I'm a big believer in that there's a season for everything, right? So while one investor may use Google Sheets in the first year of their business, that doesn't necessarily mean that will be appropriate for year 5, right? Same thing, I think, goes for resources. One of the most exciting things about the land business to me is that it can be done remotely and you can easily scale it, right? We'll be talking about scaling in a future masterclass that we have with you. But you can always hire people in so you can get out of the business and work on the business. But I think that's appropriate at the appropriate season, right?
Correct.
So I see so many people say, I really don't like getting on the phone. They're brand new to the land business. And so they say, I don't like talking to sellers. So I'm just going to hire someone to talk to sellers. If you haven't talked to sellers first, like you said, you don't know what good looks like. So you're just going to,
can I just add to that as well for anyone listening or for anyone on this call as well? If you have the mindset that you don't like talking to people, this is not the business for you.
Yes, you may want to look at something else. There are plenty.
You may want to do something else. Maybe do some passive investing in multifamily and just set and forget.
Absolutely, absolutely. Or if you want to be a lender on land deals, reach out to other land investors and fund their deals, and you don't have to talk to anyone but that one person. So. Absolutely agree. The acquisitions process is going to throw a few wrenches in your plan if you're not fan of talking to people. So
There's actually one of my friends who I've met through another mastermind called Brent Daniels, who's awesome. And his whole
yes,
business is called TTP, Talk to People.
I
All about
love
real
that.
estate. And it's all about the fact that, and this is the other thing I'll probably say up front too, and you've heard me say this, Kendall, the whole land business, folks, it's actually not about real estate. It's relationships before real estate. It's people before it's property. So this whole business is built upon building relationships and trust and nurturing your sellers and buyers and building that conversation that people can then pick up the phone to you 2 or 3 months later and go, okay, now I'm ready to sell. Can you help me? Because it's not an overnight thing. It really isn't.
Absolutely. And to go back to that graphic that you had, that first 6 months of maybe not even closing a deal yet, all of that time is still time that you're nurturing leads and nurturing sellers. That way you do start closing those deals in month 7, 8, 9, right? And I'm a big fan of Alex Hormozy, and he has a great quote that he has out that something about if you can consistently do the same thing day in, day out, that's part of a proven system, and not have to see results every single day, then you'll be successful. And I think that another way of saying that is like, there is no instant gratification in this business. If you're starting it up and setting it up as a business, there's no instant gratification. You've got to do the things and consistently, just like the marketing piece, right?
Yep.
Like, when stuff starts getting slow, I see a lot of people try to pull back from their marketing when they should be doing the opposite. They should be spending more in marketing.
When the market zigs, you need to zag. Do the opposite of what everyone's doing, because then you'll be successful. I think it might have been, what's his name from Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett, that actually said that back in the day. When the market zigs, you got to zag.
That's it. That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. So as a side question, I do want to talk to you a little bit about marketing and zigging and zagging. So there's a lot of talk right now about how end of the year things start slowing down. There's not a whole lot of activity. I've seen lots of people even pull their marketing back at the end of the year. So what are some of your thoughts about that? And what are you seeing your clients do that are successful at this particular quarter?
Yep. Really great question. So in terms of the quarter, October and November, no change, because apart from Thanksgiving, where you'll often find that the week around Thanksgiving, maybe responses slow down slightly. But other than that, it's business as usual. For the month of December, we've got a lot of people that are mailing and marketing within the first week to 2 weeks. But then they're just pausing for 2 or 3 weeks over December, because a lot of people are traveling for Christmas and maybe not looking at their direct mail for one of the things. However, doesn't mean you stop marketing altogether. A lot of our customers for December have switched to cold calling, because during Thanksgiving and Christmas, when people are traveling around to families, you can still get them on the phone, right? So December is a great time to do cold calling. It's a great time to go back to all of your leads from the last 3 months, call them back again. Hey, I sent you an offer in October. We've just had Thanksgiving. You've got together with your family. Just wondering if you guys have talked about your property and what you want to do. Hey, it's coming up to Christmas. We sent you an offer in November. Maybe when you get together with your family at Christmas, could you talk about the property and let me know, because I'm still working. So don't switch off just because the rest of the world is switching off. It is a good time to double down, but think about what your strategy is and think about what you're doing to meet the market where it's at.
I love that. Meeting the market where it's at. Also, another great way of saying that is, if you put yourself in the seller's shoes, what is that seller doing right now? Like you said, they're meeting with family. I think so many times it's easy to really lose sight of the fact that, we're just dealing with regular people, right? Like we're driven by KPIs and all this other stuff, and all of that's fantastic. But it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it if you can just put yourself in a seller's shoes and say, okay, when would I answer my phone?
Yeah.
Around this time. Then do that.
Yeah.
Right?
When would be a good time to talk to your family about, hey, do we pass this land down to you? Or do you even want it? Christmas and Thanksgiving is a great time to have that conversation with people. Everyone's together. Awesome opportunity to save, especially if it's an older generation and they've been sitting on the land for 30, 40 years. A lot of the times those conversations will end with the family going, we don't want it. We've never even visited it. Sell it. Give us the cash. Awesome. A great time to really maximize those decision points when families come together. So yeah, I say keep going, people.
I love it. I love it.
If you're enjoying this episode of the Only Land Fans podcast, please let us know by subscribing and leaving a review. Now let's get back to the action.
So talking about expectations, talking about getting started from startup to success, one of the very real expectations that I've seen a lot of people deal with is, how do I do this business the right way while I'm working full time?
Mm-hmm.
So can you talk a little bit about some of the observations that you've had around people that are, have one foot in each zone, if you will, about how they can do this business while also working a full-time job?
Yeah, great question. And I can probably lean on experience for here, because when we first started doing real estate in the US like 8 years ago, let's say we, myself and my business partner, Matt, I had a full-time company that I was running for myself. He had a full-time job, and you got to make it work. So the first thing is really think about your time allocation and think about it in a weekly cycle. But you're going to have leads coming in. So what I'd suggest is, and especially in the current market, because I think back to when we started, we could get back to leads in 2 or 3 days and it was fine. Not now. Market's shifted. There's a lot more people out there. So you need to get back in touch with your leads in 24 hours. And that doesn't mean you need to make an offer in 24 hours. But what it might mean is that at the end of your day, let's say you finish your job at 5 o'clock and you come home and you get a few things ready. Let's say you've got 5 leads that came through that day. What I want you to do is make sure that you contact every single one of them and just thank them. Quick phone call, thank them for asking for an offer or inquiring about their property. Find out a couple of basic things. So just ask a few basic questions and then set the expectation. One of the biggest things I think people don't do well in this business is manage expectations. Because let's just think about that for a second, Kendall. When do you often feel the most let down?
When people don't do what they say they're going to do, or if I don't know what's coming next, I'm like,
bingo. Yep. And if you don't know what's coming next, what do you create in your own mind around that?
You create your own narrative. So it could be either that I'm not that important to them, or maybe they're not legitimate, or maybe they're a scam, or whatever it is.
All of that stuff. Yep. Or conversely, you might have a conversation and then your expectation that you have for yourself. If I'm a property owner and someone calls me, I'm thinking, cool, they're going to call me back tomorrow. But that might not be the expectation, right? So it's really great to really think about what is it that I can do within the time that I have, and how do I set that expectation with my seller? So rule number 1, always call people back within 24 hours, just to introduce yourself and set the scene. Rule number 2, on that call, think about the expectation. So if you are working full time and you know that you're going to need the next 48 hours or 72 hours to run your comps because you've only got a certain amount of time per day, then tell them. Say, look, I do work full time. I'm going to be checking some numbers over the next 48 hours. I'm expecting that I'm going to give you a call on Friday. Is that okay? Great. Then on Friday, you need to make sure that you've got time in your calendar for later that night to give them a call. Other thing you can do is really think about processes and systems to manage your time effectively. So number 1, having a calendar that's going to work for you. So even if you've got time that your customers can book with you, maybe it's from 6 until 7 every night, and that's your call time, right? But also make sure that you're chunking out time to do what you need to do to call people back. And in that is task management. So make sure you've got yourself a couple of what I would call SLAs, or service level agreements, even if it's just with yourself. So for example, comps need to be done within 48 hours. Callbacks need to be done in 24 hours. Offer ones need to be sent out via email, preferably. Let the systems work for you within 5 days of someone asking for an offer. Now, I'm not saying that it has to be those metrics, but set yourself some of those time frames so then you can time chunk what it is you need to do to manage that appropriately. And then use that in your communications with customers as well. What I find in this business, especially when you're working full time and trying to do this part time, people will be forgiving to a point. Okay, they'll be forgiving to a point. Now, a lot of the times they're forgiving because you've told them the expectation. We'll call you back in 2 days. I'll get you an offer within 4 days, etc. So they're okay with that. But as you said before, I said, what's the stuff that sets you up for feeling like you've been let down? It's when someone doesn't deliver what they say they're going to do. My second piece of advice here in how to do this when you're working full time, if you can't deliver on a deadline that you've said, let the person know. Just go back to the seller, drop them a quick email. Hey, Kendall, I spoke to you 2 days ago. Just need another day to finish my numbers. I'll come back to you tomorrow. Cool. As humans, we tend to be okay when we know what's happening. It's when we don't know what's happening that we'll make up assumptions about stuff, and then we feel let down. So just manage your time and chunk your time in that degree. I'd also say reverse engineer your numbers. So when you're starting out, maybe set yourself a goal of 1 to 2 deals a month. And if that's the case, maybe you need to do 5,000 pieces of marketing a month. So 5,000 letters or 3,000 letters and 2,000 cold calls, whatever that looks like. Do your marketing to a degree that you can handle the response rate.
Listen up, land fans. This is huge. We're bringing you the one and only Pace Morby, star of A&E's Triple Digit Flip and the mastermind behind $450 million in real estate deals. He's coming to our virtual meetup on Thursday, December 5th to share how he's applying his creative financing genius to land deals. Head to olfmeetup.com to save your spot today. That's olfmeetup.com. This is the kind of opportunity that changes everything.
That is huge. That is huge, because if you've built a business successfully and correctly, like you said, like you mentioned earlier, it really should just be dollar in, return on investment out. So if you've built out a machine that efficiently, that okay, every $1 I put into marketing, I get $4 back on a deal, right? That's fantastic. But what if you are like, okay, hey, I'm ready to scale, let's do this, and you throw 20,000 mail pieces out, but you can't handle the lead flow that comes in from that, then that's just money left on the table.
Very important to really think about how you're managing your lead. The minute that leads just keep slipping through the cracks, you've created yourself an efficiency problem. And what I would do at that point is just push pause for a couple of weeks until you can catch up. So make sure you honor those leads that come through and get back to them, even if it's late. Now, I know customers that have called back leads 2 weeks later and they've still got deals because they've said, I'm so sorry, I've just been overwhelmed. I'm just getting back to you now. Let's talk about your property. The thing is, a lot of those leads will be cold by then, but keep moving forward, people. Just keep moving forward. And then just pause and recalibrate. You can recover from that. Not a problem, but yeah.
That's really good. Especially, you mentioned earlier how this is a people business and people like to do business with people that they know and trust. And so if you can set up expectations, one of the biggest trust builders out there is say, hey, I'm going to call you back Friday at 2. And then Friday at 2, you call them back and they say, this person fills out their obligations, right? And so that's a huge credibility boost for you, because not that many people do that. You will not be in the majority if you follow up on your expectations.
Correct. Yeah, correct. And really think about it through the lens of, what do I do to make this person's day? There's a whole philosophy that goes back to the Seattle fish market in Pike Place, which is called the fish philosophy. And it's, if I can digress for a sec, but it's all about that concept of, you might be doing some dirty work that you don't like, but what can you do to make someone's day in that moment? Even if it is Friday at 2:00 and you don't have an answer, still call the person back and say, hey, you know what? I don't have an answer, but I haven't forgotten you. Oh my goodness, is that going to go a long way to them just falling in love with you, right? So
absolutely,
really think about that this is a human business. This is all about people. It's actually not about properties. It's about people.
Absolutely.
Property is just a product.
I think that SLA idea is just brilliant because it helps keep you accountable to yourself, right? And it also highlights which parts of your system you need to dial in. For example, if you're working a full-time job, it may not be the best idea to ask a seller, when's a good time for me to call you back? Because chances are they're just going to give you a time that works for them, but that might be in the middle of the workday. It won't work for you. So then you have to go back and forth and say, well, I can't do this and can't do that. And so something that I like to say is, just like you said, know what your call times are, time block your call time and say, today's Tuesday and you know that you can't do calls until Thursday at 6, then offer that time. Say, I'll take a couple of days to look at this. Can I give you a call back?
Thursday at 6. Yeah, exactly.
So leaving it open-ended and then have this whole thing, I'm too busy to get to you and you're too busy. It's a whole thing.
And the other reason too, if I can just add to that, the other reason why I think about terms in relation to your own SLAs, I'm going to this amount of time I'm going to allocate to here. I want to turn around this by this time. I want comps done by this time. I want offers out by this time. If you can set yourself those goals and hold yourself accountable to them, it's going to help you when this happens. Come home on a Wednesday night. It's been a really long day. You're tired. You can't be bothered running numbers tonight. So you just say to yourself, I'll do that tomorrow. But guess what? Tomorrow comes, you're now 24 hours late. If something else comes up that day that gets in the way, all of a sudden you're 48 hours late. So don't do yourself the honor of, if you're going to start this business, stick to those things as much as you can. I get that life happens, but stick to those little minor commitments that you make, because it will see you move forward.
Absolutely. Both from a tactical standpoint, as well as like a mindset standpoint.
Yes.
I know so many people feel like, oh, maybe I can't do this and maybe I can't do that. That whole lack of self-confidence comes from not fulfilling commitments that you've made to yourself. So if you can say, no matter what, I'm going to return a call in 12 hours, and you see yourself doing that, and you're doing what you said that you would do, and even if it's only you that recognizes it and that knows that's your standard, that's still proving to yourself that you can trust your own word. And self-confidence really builds from that. Doing what you say you're going to do, holding.
Well, that DWID, it's my favorite acronym. Do what you say you will do, DWID.
Yes, I love that. That is so good. That is so good. Yeah. And I mean, that it just breeds self-confidence. And so whenever things start getting difficult, tracking those small wins, recognizing like, hey, I'm doing what I'm saying that I'm going to do. I'm working the system. Just keep going. It's going to get better. I love that. So can you talk a little bit about, there are lots of different education platforms out there. I think that's one of the really cool things about the land space, is that there is just a wealth of information out there. How does someone go from education to implementing?
Yep. Love that question, by the way. And here's what I want to reassure people of, because there is so much out there now. When we started 8 years ago, there was hardly anything. There's a couple of courses out there, but they were teaching some basics, and they've all come a long way too, which is wonderful. But how do you go from learning to implementing? First thing, find someone that you can model. And what I mean by that is partner with someone like Kendall or myself that's been there, done that. You can come to them and say, look, I've done some education. I've now got some ideas. Here's what I'm thinking. Can you help me now formulate this into a strategy? You do not want to just push go on this business without really being clear on your strategy. So people will often go, what does the strategy mean? So strategy is getting really clear on how many deals you want to do, how much profit per deal, reverse engineering those numbers about how much marketing you need to do, conducting your research on areas that you want to do. I know Diane said earlier when she introduced herself about growth path cities, know what kind of deals you want to do and where you want to do them. Then start to research things like the ancillary services around that. Are you going to sell through a realtor? Are you going to use a local title company? If so, start those conversations now, so you're thinking ahead about what you need, and then really get clear on what that strategy means. So we know what we're doing month 1, month 2, month 3, onwards and onwards. Once you've got clear on that strategy, and again, that's where people like Kendall and I can really help with that, it's then about execution. Now, do you have to do it all? No, you don't. So what I want you to think about is, to go from education to implementation, you need to be really clear on what you are good on, but also what's going to move your needle forward. Because a lot of the stuff that you'll need to do in this business will be essential, but it's not needle moving stuff. So what do I mean by that? You're going to spend hours pulling data and cleansing it. You might spend extra hours, especially if this is precious time if you're still working a full-time job, right? You might spend hours formatting letters and doing merge proofs and checking your templates. All of that stuff you can outsource. The stuff that's going to move your needle forward in doing deals is talking to sellers, talking to buyers, and doing deals. Point blank. Conversations that nurture those leads and get deals done. All the other stuff you can easily outsource, partner with people, work with others to get that implementation done. The other thing that I'll come back to your question, Kendall, about the transition from education to implementation is, don't wait until you've got all the answers. Don't wait until you're super comfortable, because the newsflash here, you're never going to be. The whole thing, like I said before, when Will Smith jumped out of the plane, the hardest point is before the jump. Just jump. I remember my very first conversation with a seller back when 8 years ago when our phone first rang, and I answered it and I had a conversation. I did not know a single thing about what I was saying. But you know what? I got on the phone and had the conversation anyway. And I was really honest with the seller and said, look, I'm going to ask you some basic questions. Then I'm going to go and do some research and call you back. If they asked me a whole bunch of technical stuff, I just said, look, leave that with me. I'll go find out. Don't feel afraid to say that I wouldn't say that you're learning, but I would say to people, I'm going to go find out that answer and I'm going to come back to you with a really solid response. That gives people confidence. So yeah.
Absolutely.
I know that was a long answer to your question, Kendall.
No, I think it's fantastic. And you gave us so many great points. And I love that the whole idea of that, that being ready, you'll never feel ready. I actually just released a little talk that I did about the fact that ready is a lie. Like, you will never feel ready. And so I know, like, when I first started, before, like, real estate in general, because I had a house flipping business for 8 years before I got into land. And so before I even started that business, I went to every single course and took every class and every webinar for 3 years, right? Because I wanted to feel like I knew everything. And at the end of the day, when I finally pulled the trigger, I didn't feel like I knew more at that point than I did 2 years before that, right? There's basic education that you need to know, but at the end of the day, there's just no way for you to know every single variable. So you have to expect, we're talking about expectations here, you have to have the expectation that you are not going to know all of the answers and be okay with that. And also be okay with, you're going to build that into your system of, I'm going to go find out these answers, right? It's not the
and even eight years on, I still get questions that I don't know the answer to, but that's when you just lean on the people around you. It's fine.
Absolutely. Perfect example. I'm working with a student right now who everything went beautifully, that got it under contract, everything's good to go. We go to list it on the MLS, and the county has assigned that address, the same address as the lot next to it. I've never seen that before. Like, how can there be two same exact addresses? And obviously that's a problem when you're trying to list it. And so I didn't know the answer, but we went through the process and went through the county, and you call the people and you figure it out. And I think that expectation of not needing to know every single thing, but just knowing that part of what we do is solving problems and getting answers to questions that we don't know, right?
Correct. And I'm always pleasantly surprised over how many people are just willing to help in this business. Now, I remember the first time I ever had to pull a title. I thought I was reading another language. I was like, are you serious? What is this stuff? I've never even seen, I don't even know what half of this stuff means. I literally called my title company, who is still with us today, and I was like, can you guys just spend 10 minutes just giving me the plain English version of this? And it was great. And they literally educated me on the spot about what this all means. And again, it's just leaning on the people around you to make stuff make sense. It's pretty cool.
Absolutely. I love the fact that I think this is really special to land, at least in comparison to like my previous experiences with like single family, for example.
Yeah.
But there's so many generous people in the land space. And so often the types of deals, especially if you're doing larger deals, subdivided deals, that's going to be a team sport. Like, it will be a team that helps you to take that down. And so being open to not knowing all the answers, leaning into your lane, and then going and finding out the people that do know those answers and can help you, lining up all those expectations, that will get you so much further faster.
100%. Yep. Couldn't agree more.
I love it. So let's talk a little bit about mistakes in the land business. I think that so many people that wait, like whenever I waited for 3 years before I started doing my very first deals, because I didn't want to make any mistakes. I was just afraid of the mistakes. So can we talk about what types of mistakes do you see people making in the land space? And how can we be assured that like the world will keep spinning and everything will be fine and you will not lose everything?
Yep. I love this topic. So I want to reframe the word mistakes to learning opportunities if we can.
Love that.
Because
Yes.
not everything should be seen as a mistake, because then people feel like, oh, the world's caving in. It's like, it's not. And what I want to just let people know that the very first marketing campaign that we ever did, we had a typo in our phone number. So we literally sent out thousands of pieces of mail with someone else's phone number on there to call. And we were wondering why we never got calls. We were sitting there like weeks later going, that didn't work. And then we finally got a phone call from the poor woman whose number was on there. And she said, I think you guys have stolen my identity because something's going on. Turns out it was just 2 numbers around the wrong way. That's it. So she found out who we were. She found out our real number, worked it out and called us. And we struck up a relationship with her where, interestingly enough, she worked in sales, which was an absolute godsend. And we said, okay, when all these leads come through, can you just email them all to me and I'll handle them? And she did. And so we brought her in on some of the deals that we did. And it turned from a bad situation, it turned good. But the lesson in there for us is have a second set of eyes, double check everything. Make sure that learning opportunity is don't just take it for granted and get something done quickly, like double check it all. Some other mistakes that I see people make, or let's say learning opportunities, I'll go back to that. First and foremost is I think having the expectation that every county is going to perform the same. They don't. Every county is different. Every list that you have in that county is different. There are so many nuances in this business that either dictate if a county is going to be good or not good. And you cannot predict it because we've gone into counties, Kendall, where we've marketed once, got 10 deals. Awesome. Great. 6 months later, we did the same county again. 0. It's not a predictable business that people want it to be. It's got a lot of unpredictability. So I think the other mistake there is know your numbers and measure your numbers, but don't set them in concrete because things change pretty rapidly. Other mistakes I see people make is one I mentioned earlier, which is going and getting a whole bunch of resources to help you out, but not knowing what good looks like yourself. You really need to make sure that you're in learning your business. As you're learning, do things like write up your SOPs, your standard operating processes, so that when it comes time to bring in people, all of that stuff is documented. And it's super easy to document that stuff as you go. You can just record yourself, get it transcribed, and there's AI that does that for you now. Boom, there's your document. You just need to edit it. The other mistake I see people make is thinking that they can do it all on their own. That you can, but you're going to make it hard, right? So look at all the people that you can lean on. As you said, Kendall, there's a real community around vacant land. You can do deals with people. You can have people do your marketing. You can have intake people. It's a whole range of stuff that you can do. Yeah. But the other mistake I'm going to say at the moment is, and this is going to go against some contrary or opinions here, but I do see people that kind of over scrub their data, because when it comes to doing single family homes, you and I know, Kendall, that there's a lot more data points that you can look at for pre-foreclosure, reverse mortgages where the property value is less than what the mortgage is now, nuisance liens, etc. There's a whole range of different things that we can look at in single family to help us identify the more motivated sellers. Land is quite different. And I see a lot of people scrubbing out all this stuff to try and go for the ultimate list. But I've also seen people that do no scrubbing at all and they still get lots of deals. So I guess me having the helicopter view over all of it is just don't overthink this business. Just do what everyone says, keep moving forward. And the county will tell you, or the people in that county will tell you if they're ready to sell or not.
That's really good advice. That's fantastic. So let me ask you, you mentioned earlier about being really intentional with your goals and setting up what your strategy is going to be. If someone is brand new to this and they're like, look, I just want to make money. I just want deals, right? If you're going to ask me how much I want to make, I'd love to make $1 million a year. So how does someone that's brand new into the business kind of reverse engineer their, first set their goals and then reverse engineer to figure out exactly what strategies are going to be doing?
Yep. Great question. So let's just talk about some numbers here in relation to marketing response rates, because that will help people to understand, where they want to get from and what that needs to look like. So first and foremost, you should expect that if you're doing cold calling, and if you're doing cold calling well, because there's different cold callers out there, you should be getting on average about a 5% warm response rate to your cold calls. Direct mail at the moment, average is about 1% response rate to direct mail. It can ebb and flow in different counties to maybe 0.5% in the more populated areas, all the way up to maybe 2% in some other counties as well. So let's think about that for a second, because your response rates will then dictate how many offers you get out to how many deals you do. In relation to offer conversion, again, we're finding that it varies so much person to person. But if we talk about some averages, for every, say, 30 offers that you send, you should be expecting to get at least one deal out of there. So then if you're thinking, all right, I want to do 2 deals a month and I want at least 10,000 profit per deal. That's a good place to start, by the way. 2 deals a month at about 10,000 profit a deal. That's pretty good. Doesn't mean that you're going to say no to a deal that's 5,000, but it also means you're going to jump for joy if one of them's 20,000. Keep it in line, but don't say no to the small stuff either. So if you want to do 2 deals at 10,000 each a deal, then you got to think about, okay, if I'm getting a 1% response rate from direct mail and a 5% response rate from cold calling, how much volume do I need to do? And if that response rate means that I need to get out X amount of offers, so I need to get out at least 60 offers a month in order to get those 2 deals, then how am I going to allocate my time and what kind of marketing am I going to be doing to look at that as well? So that's just a high level of how you would go about reverse engineering your numbers, guys, just to make sure you've got some kind of KPI that you're pushing towards.
That's fantastic. And this is not like a mysterious cloak and dagger kind of business. There are some variables that we don't know that we just have to figure out as we go with testing. But essentially, over the entire industry, there are certain numbers, like you said, that in terms of
conversion rates,
rates, absolutely. Those numbers will mean nothing to you if you don't track your KPIs and track what you're actually doing in your business, right?
Yeah.
You don't know how many offers you're making in your business. You might feel like, oh yeah, I'm making 30. You're actually making 12. That's
Exactly.
very different, right?
The workload feels like 30, but yeah, 12.
Exactly. So definitely tracking the KPI is so important. So I'm glad you brought up those metrics. I do have a follow-up nut and bolt question for you. So just from a philosophical standpoint, we all, let's say we have exactly what we are striving for. We know what types of deals we're doing, what we want to do. Let's say that we get some leads that don't exactly fit our price margins.
Yep.
Would you still make an offer on every single lead that comes in?
Yes, 100% yes.
Excellent.
Because you just never know where that lead's going to go. Maybe if it's a deal that's outside of your wheelhouse, but you get it under contract, then maybe you go within the community and find someone to assign it to that can do that deal and you still make money. Maybe you get it under contract with the owner and you really need to close on it and you find a private money lender to do the deal with you who's got loads of experience. There's always an option at the exit strategy, always. Yeah. The only time I wouldn't make an offer on a deal is if the numbers just didn't add up and I didn't think there'd be any room in it for me or the seller or the next buyer. But otherwise, excuse me, yes, is the short answer to that.
Yes. And the reason why I asked that is because I have run across some people that they're like, I don't think the seller would take that offer because they've already expressed that they want X amount. And I'm like, you never know. Just make the offer, especially.
Completely right. You never know.
You never know. And especially so the way that I look at it, because I am a very sort of visual thinker, if I know that I'm going to get numbers say that I should get a contract after every 30 offers I'm going to make, I'm going to want to tick off those offers as quickly as possible.
Yep.
So they may not take it, but that's one more offer that I'm able to get closer to my 30 to get that one contract, right?
And also what I would say is don't underestimate the power of nurturing here, people. So if you do make an offer to that person, number one, they're going to know that you're serious. Number two, they're going to keep you front of mind. But number three, then put them into a nurture sequence where you say, look, I'm going to send you an offer anyway. I know we haven't landed on the right number, but I'm going to send it to you because I am serious. I know you want to sell. Maybe we just haven't landed on the right number yet or the right time. So can I keep in touch with you over the next few months and just check in and see how you're doing? And 9 times out of 10 people will say yes because people just want to have conversations with you. But the next thing you're going to do, folks, is make sure that you follow up every couple of weeks, like every 2 to 3 weeks, just a phone call or an SMS or a quick email. Don't make it a sales conversation. Just make it a conversation. Hey, just touching base, seeing how you're doing. How's your family? How was your Thanksgiving? How's that land going? That's it.
Yes.
That's all you need to do, right?
They know why you're calling.
Yeah, they know why you're calling.
You know why you're calling. Yeah, you don't have to. You don't have to make
keeping
it
the lines of communication open. That's it. Now it's going to feel really silly, but the thing is, the more you do that, the more it's going to be like people remember you, and they're like, "I'm ready now." Until
absolutely.
they say no, it's still a yes.
Absolutely. And people's life circumstances change. They may not need money today, but something might happen where they need it 2 months from now or 3 months
Yep.
from now. So you've got to keep following up. I love that so much. As we are rounding out our first episode here, the last thing that I would like to chat with you about is what are some realistic goals and expectations that people can expect just in terms of when they're setting up their business right out of the gate. You did a fantastic job of showing us that the REI journey.
Yep.
But what can people do? They just expect to strap in and they're just going to get beat up for the first 6 months, or what does that look like? What does that look like?
I think if you're going to try and do everything yourself, then yes, strap in and expect to feel like you're going to be beat up for the first 6 months. But if you, as I said, if you know that you've only got a limited time and your time should be spent on the phone with sellers and buyers and doing your due diligence and on the phone with the county, on the phone with your title company, learning everything that goes on with all those conversations, great. First 6 months really is about understanding what can you get someone else to do for you. And I'm not talking VA, I'm talking services, providers, industry experts, etc., versus the stuff that you keep yourself. Because there is a lot of stuff that you can really get done for you. And really think about that through the lens of maximizing time, but also maximizing return. Because I mentioned before about the moving the needle. If you're going to be trying to do everything, you're going to find that your business is going to feel a lot slower versus really partnering with someone to say, look, I know I've got a budget. I need to get to here by a certain amount of time. I want 3 months to look like this and 6 months to look like this. Help partner with people that are going to fast track you there, because otherwise it's just going to feel pretty overwhelming. And I say that because it felt really overwhelming for us. We did everything and it was like, this is a lot, right? But it doesn't have to be that way. So don't feel like you have to do it all on your own.
I love that. I love that. And it brings back to focus the most important thing that you can do as a business owner and operator, in my opinion, is doing the tasks that are going to move the needle. I had one of my very good friends and mentor, Tim Mai, when I first got into the real estate business and we had a conversation. I was doing all of the things that an operator should do, right? Trying to set up a website and formatting my letters and doing all this other stuff. None of it really moving the needle, but I was busy doing those things. And he actually pulled me aside one day where we were having a conversation and I was just saying, oh, I don't know why things aren't moving. I don't have this going. I don't have that going. And he said, let me ask you a question. What does your business do? And through some conversation, we distilled it down. I buy and sell houses, right? At that point, we're in a house business. And he said, okay, if you don't buy or sell a house that day, then you didn't do your business.
Oh, go Tim. I say that because you know that I know Tim really well and he's always got gold nuggets. And
Oh my gosh.
Same with land, right?
Absolutely.
Have you got a deal desk or have you got a business? Yep.
That's exactly right. That's exactly
great way to round it out.
So,
hey, sorry, go.
I was just going to say, move the needle and don't get distracted. But like you said, there are other service providers out there that will help you with pulling lists, cleaning lists, scrubbing these lists, getting those lists out the door, marketing. So you're not doing all of the things, but you're doing the most important thing that only you can do in your business, which is move the needle.
Correct. Love it. Love it. I was just going to do a quick shout out to David De Silva on here. David, I just saw your little thing pop up that you're getting your 18-year-old son involved. That is awesome. I love that. What a great way to get someone in early and build up the legacy and get them excited about real estate. It's so awesome.
That's absolutely incredible. I love seeing that. And what an on-ramp, right? To have a parent get you on into real estate at 18. Gosh, that's incredible. AJ, I want to thank you so much for spending tonight with us. This has been absolutely fantastic. So many fantastic nuggets and conversations that we've had tonight. I could talk about this forever. I could geek out about it. I just love it.
Me too. I've had a great time chatting with you. Thanks, Kendall.
Yeah. Next time, we're going to be talking about how to grow and scale your REI business.
Yep.
And yes, they are two different things. So you will be sharing some of that with us. Yes, this has been absolutely fantastic. Please make
Thank
sure
you,
to join
everyone.
us. Next Tuesday, AJ will be doing part 2 of the masterclass, where we'll be focusing on how to grow and scale your REI business. Thank you guys so much. AJ, thank you. This has been a pleasure. Can't wait to do this again next week. So until then, take care, be safe, and we'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.